Hello. Let's head back to the nature preserve today. Although I filmed at the small lake there 2 weeks ago, there were other nice views that I want to come back to. About halfway to the lake, along the path, I found this scene. I really like the way all the branches create angular shapes, so I wrote a kind of fun angular melody. The instrument this week was another Chinese Xiao. Back in week 10, I had mentioned that I intended to play the melody on a Xiao, but found that it had cracked, so I played it on Shinobue instead. To fix that crack, I first wrapped the bamboo in a wet towel for about an hour. Upon unwrapping it, the bamboo had swollen shut. Without any glue or wrapping, it plays just fine. Of course, it will just dry out again and the crack will reopen. So, let's bind it. First, I put on these pipe clamps and protect the finish on the bamboo with blue tape underneath. In this photo, one bind is done and I'm beginning to tie the second bind. I'm using upholstery thread for the binding. The bamboo is still wet at this point, and I keep the thread soaked with glue. The idea is that when the bamboo dries, it will try to open up, but as the thread dries, it actually contracts and keeps the crack in the bamboo closed. And of course, as the glue dries, it holds the contracting thread to the bamboo. To seal it all, so that the thread won't loosen again if it gets wet, I covered the bindings with clear nail polish. Done. You can still see the crack, but the flute plays. At this point, I was a little worried about this hairline crack that extended from the area I fixed all the way up to the blowing hole, but the flute still played. After a few days of playing it, I set it down in my rack, turned away, and heard a loud pop. Sure enough, the crack I had worried about completely split open all the way up to the note at the end. So, back to the workshop. In this photo you can see my 3 original binds plus 5 new ones I've added. Unfortunately, the new ones cover up the poem at the top of the instrument. You can see the marks the pipe clamps made in the blue tape. I'm glad those marks aren't in my bamboo. Unfortunately, the tape was clamped on so hard that when I peeled it off, it took some of the paint from the calligraphy with it. But this seems to have done it. The instrument has played great ever since, and I was finally able to use it in a video. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.